I just didn't know how to go into my boss's office and ask for a raise. Like, I didn't know what words to say.
Say whatever you have to say, even if it means, at some point you will be overwhelmed and expecting some tears, and that's also fine.
Do you think we're creating more flexible workplaces for women and actually encouraging them to stick around?
Companies never ask that we will give this much to a female candidate or this much to a male candidate.
Hello and welcome to another episode of More Bang for Her Buck. The purpose of this episode is for us to help women who are entering industries and joining the workforce to start off on a more equitable footing. But that's not all. We also need to help women navigate this corporate jungle, move upwards and sideways and diagonally to the places that they're truly meant to be and really live up to their full potential. And another answer that I hope to have at the end of this episode is for women who've taken a career break and want to rejoin the workforce, how do we do this and how do we do this well? And to help me answer all of these questions, I have two incredible women with me. We've got Malak, who is the founder of the Growth Lab, and she has helped several companies over the last 2 decades grow. I think the word grow reappears on your LinkedIn profile a lot. You're a gardener for companies, I guess. Priyanka is the founder of womenfirstjobs.com, which is the first women-only job portal in the UAE and the world.
Yeah.
Amazing. So great to have you. Thank you for joining me in this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
So tell us just really quickly about the number of women that you have on the women's-only job portal that you've just launched.
So we have a number of around 100,000 at the moment from all over the world, and it includes from all the sectors, all the industries, and it's growing every day.
Wow. And you guys have only been up and running for a year, right?
Yes.
1 year and 100,000 women is a lot. But I want to start with a study that I found in the National that was published a couple of years ago. And it was about how female students who leave college are ready to start out on a far lower salary than their male counterparts, right? So a female student will say, okay, at 5,000 dirhams, but a male student who's also a fresh graduate would not settle for anything less than 8K, 7.5, 8K. And that's what the numbers show in this case study. Do you guys find that a lot in your industries as well? Priyanka, we'll start with you.
I think somewhat these figures might be true because if I'll take the example, females, when we want to start our career, we think just get the things, just start the career, no matter what. Because initially we start judging ourselves. We think maybe we are not capable enough, maybe we are not equivalent as compared to the male counterpart, or maybe the person who is sitting for the same role. But the thing is that it all starts with us. If we will not start judging us, that suppose there is a situation, there is a marketing role, companies never ask that we will give this much to a female candidate or this much to a male candidate. It all comes from the individual and their mindset.
And how they ask, right?
Absolutely.
They ask only for less. So they start out asking for less. Do you feel this way as well, Malak? Do you find it in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's something that we struggle with as a cultural thing, I think. And for me, the idea that, we don't have the same responsibilities that a man has, so we don't have the same expenses, which means we would settle for less pay. To fix this, I think there's two sides of it, right? So it's us, we should be more confident about the value that we bring into the workforce and kind of ask for salaries that match that value. That's one side of it. The other side is the transparency in job descriptions and job posts, where I think there should be at least a range with every job post that any company posts online. So that people would know that this is the budget for it, and then maybe the range is based on the skills. So you get the lower part of the range or the higher part of the range, based on the skill sets or the experience that you have.
Right. But the truth is that most companies are trying to maximize profits. They want to pay out as little as possible. So there's a whole lot of gatekeeping that happens when these roles are put out. And I think especially with startups, especially with smaller companies, you're not going to say like, hey, by the way, my budget is 20,000 dirhams. You'll say like, what would you like? What would you expect? And if the person comes forth with a really tiny number, you're like, great. I mean, this is fantastic. I can get away paying a whole lot less than I started out thinking that I would. So how do we make sure that that gatekeeping doesn't happen? Because that's where I think women lose out, right? They don't have the network of people who they can call and say, hey, like, I just got offered this role. It's at this amount. Do you know anyone else in this industry, in this company? Am I at par or not? You think? How do we make sure the gatekeeping doesn't happen?
See, when you say gatekeeping, I think every company has their budgets. But the only difference is that they don't put the tags. That if a female is going to apply, I'm going to pay her 15,000, and if a male is going to apply, I'm going to pay him 20,000. It depends on an individual. If a female is coming, she has to prove her worth, that I am capable enough to prove myself that I am worthy for this 20,000. And the same applies for a male as well. Because there
But
are...
who's the person to ask is my question. Like when you're going in, for a lot of women,
The
they're just
interviewer.
picking these random numbers going, I think I'm worth 8, I think I'm worth 10, I'm not sure. Who do you ask?
The interviewer. Like
Okay.
there are techniques I've been reading. I've not reading, but like finding a few posts around recruitment.
Yeah.
And they tell you how to answer the question when someone asks, like, what do you expect?
Okay, so how do
In
you
terms
answer
of
that?
salary. Like, I mean, I would say I would like a range. Like, I don't have a number in mind, and I would prefer it if you would give me a range, and then we'll negotiate from there. So I would never give a number.
Okay.
So I always ask for the range, and whenever the number comes in, I would say, you know, no, I've been expect, or I would say my last salary.
Yeah.
If that's not my first job, then I would say, for example, I'm being paid 35K now, so I'm expecting definitely a higher salary, and so on and so forth.
Right. So it takes us longer also within a company to find our feet, right? We did a short survey on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and the results were shocking. I mean, there were women who had messaged us on an average, taking anywhere between 2 to 3 years before they made an appointment to see their line managers or their superiors to discuss career growth and raises. Anywhere between 2 and 3 years. I actually had a message from someone who said 11 years. And now it had become such a big mountain to climb that she's just going to quit. So what can we do to give women, I mean, how do you do it? How, if I'm someone who's starting out and I'm watching this episode right now, I've never made a meeting with my manager to discuss career growth. How do I go about doing it?
I think the first step is you have to bring that courage and the confidence to go and talk to the person directly. I mean, like, you need not to wait for 2 to 3 years just to discuss that, the career opportunity or the promotion or something like that. Because I think it's not worthy to work in an organization where you have to wait that long just to talk to a line manager.
Yeah.
And if you feel that you are really capable and valuable in that particular organization where your line manager comes, asks for the things, and helps you to grow, I think that's the right place for you to work.
Great point. So how often should you be talking to your manager? Every 6 months? Every 1 year? Every 2 months?
I mean, I can't think of a situation where 1 week would go by without talking to your line manager. I mean, what type of communication would you have in your team or in your company if you don't have that, right? So if I don't have access to my line manager, that's a huge issue. Again,
Or maybe
like,
you're talking about regular stuff, but you're not really talking about the big things, which is like the growth plan and the monies and the salaries and the...
yeah, I mean, it could, like, one option could be something around like having some sort of an agreement beforehand where we say, you know, I would like feedback every 3 months, for example, on my performance, and you know, it goes both ways. But it could be that, so maybe in the contract or before you sign, make sure that something says, you know, we have a review at least yearly over performance, and then, you know, negotiation of the salary or the compensation.
Yeah.
It could also be an option, but I mean, not having access to your line manager for years, that's
It's a big
like
red flag.
insane. I mean,
I want to end our first segment on this case study, right? So this person who wrote into us just got this job. She's really, really scared to meet her manager about a raise because she often tears up when talking about money. It's just something she finds extremely overwhelming. She's also afraid that the manager will bring up that targets were not met during the year in the negotiation, and now she's got no foothold to ask for more. She's got a meeting coming up this week. How would you suggest she deals with it? What homework should she do before she goes into that meeting?
I think she should first sit and make sure that all her achievements are in line. Create an email, write everything, jot down everything, what all achievements, what all tasks she has fulfilled in the past. And the other thing is that to get that confidence, because the line manager is also a human being and the same employee of the organization. If she has to get that confidence to go and talk to him one on one with all the facts, with the achievements and everything, and that she is worthy enough to get that raise.
What do you think, Malak? What advice would you give her?
I mean, on top of that, I would say if you have targets and you're falling behind, then there's like you're either not doing a good job or something happened in the market or the targets are unrealistic, right? So maybe let's try and figure out which one was it before we go into the meeting. So if the target was unrealistic, I mean, ideally you should have communicated it earlier, but still you can mention it in the meeting. I mean, again, gather your data, gather your evidence, and even if you cry through it, like that doesn't matter. Like people cry, it's fine. Like just
Just cry and power through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say power through, but I would say like even if you're there, like just stick to whatever you have to say, right? So say whatever you have to say, even if it means at some point you will be overwhelmed and expecting some tears, then that's also fine.
Great. I think quick wrap up on my big takeaways for this is number one, we need to develop the confidence to have those meetings more often. Even in fact, when you're joining the organization, try and set it up already so you know that every 3 months you have the opportunity to discuss this. Number three, if you're going to cry, you're going to cry. It's okay. Just go through it, but go in well prepared with all of your homework done. We're going to come back and talk about once you're in the corporate jungle, how do you navigate this kind of crazy space? And yeah, we will chat about that when we come back. More Bang for Her Buck is a really important conversation around women and money. And if you think that you can contribute, and by this I mean if you've got a case study, a story that you'd like us to discuss with our experts, if you've got a bit of research that you think we should include in the show, or there's an opinion that you think we should feature, we would love to hear from you. Do drop us a DM on Instagram, or you can just email us at info@brownontheoutside.com. Welcome back to More Bang for Her Buck. This segment of the conversation is about navigating the workplace, about finding a way to move and break that glass ceiling, and then once you're there, being able to throw a ladder down for everybody else. Now, we know this, that women quit at disproportionately higher rates than men when it comes to the industry. The math is that the older they are, the higher in the ladder that they get, the more often you'll find a situation where a woman quits, and when she does, she's replaced by a man. And this has a lot to do with what's happening at home. Women are twice as likely as their male counterparts to have household chores, 3 times more likely to be managing their children's schedules, 8 times more likely to need a day off when their kid is sick, which makes them a bit of an inconvenience in the eyes of many, many corporates, right? So what do we do to make sure that women stick around and stick it out in the workplace? What do you think?
I think your facts are really to the point, and it's correct to some extent, but you are absolutely right. Like what I think, like the real empowerment starts from your house. It starts from your own home. When your husband starts supporting you for when you go out for a work, when there is a role, when there is a parents teacher meeting and you as a female is busy in a meeting and your husband can manage it and he understands that thing and step into that thing. So I think there comes a real balance. When you will get that kind of a support from your family, from your father, from your spouse, from your brother or your family members, then absolutely these things, these lack will not be there in the corporate, because then again you can stand and you can say and you can motivate the other females as well.
Yeah.
And it equally applies to a male as well. If my husband is supporting me and he's sharing the same stories with his friends, colleagues and all, that I support my wife for, because she's also empowering other females, she's also working. This is how we are empowering each other.
Yeah.
So
it's important.
It helps to change
some mindset. Of course it's important. Yeah, I think it is really, really important. But is like what we do for pregnant women in the workplace in the UAE just lip service? Because I know that we've all got to give 45 days maternity leave. But, for example, what about feeding rooms? If I have to travel all the way back to another part of Dubai, feed my child and then come back to the second shift, if I'm not allowed flexibility, and if I can get away with all this without really being held accountable to it in any court, then will I, as a corporate, do you think we're creating more flexible workplaces for women and actually encouraging them to stick around?
I think we're moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, again, it's the culture, whether the society itself or the companies themselves. And just to add to your point, I think just the thought that, you know, the whatever is happening at home is the woman's responsibility is not true. And I don't think it's fair, honestly, to any of the parties involved. So I don't think it's fair for the man either not to be spending time and giving care to
That's
the
true.
household and
That's
the
true.
kids.
That's true.
Also not fair for the kids, also not fair for the women, of course. And the culture at work, I mean, what can I say? Like, it's like
truth?
there's a lot of pushing, right? There's a lot of, the culture is more like you have to power through, like you have to push through. And I feel like, you know, it's not that urgent. Like, things are not that urgent. You know, work's gonna be there. I understand sometimes there is real urgency, but it's not all time. So I mean, flexibility and knowing that you're working with human beings that have full lives aside from, you know, being an employee in your company. I think that changes a lot once you start seeing it in that sense.
Yeah. A woman I was speaking to recently mentioned this actually. It's not just about 45 days of maternity leave. It's also that we only have 14 days paternity leave, right? Which means that when you've just given birth to this baby and you really need this man to like help, you need an extra set of hands, especially in a country where childcare is more expensive. You don't have your in-laws or your parents helping out at home. It's probably just the both of you trying to get through this really tough period of your life. He has to up and go back to work in 14 days. Are there any companies that are doing it differently in the UAE? In your view, have you come across any?
I don't have any statistics. I think some would be more flexible than others, yes, when it comes to paternity and maternity leaves. Like, I know for a fact some companies will offer like 2 months, not 45 days. But I think 45 days is not enough. And I think 14 days is not enough. Also, not because we want someone to help the woman.
Yeah.
But also because we want them, like, we want the fathers to connect with their kids
as well,
right?
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's heartbreaking if I have a kid today and I have to go back to work in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Being the man, then that's heartbreaking. 45 days is also heartbreaking. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, should be more flexible around that for sure.
Yeah, I think great way to attract more talent. You were telling me, Priyanka, about an employee that you had on your team and that story. Do you want to share it with us?
Yeah, so absolutely, like because at the end, what I believe is that the work shouldn't be affected, and I'm sure all the corporates they also believe the same thing, that work shouldn't be affected. So if an employee needs some extra care, and you know that at the end your work is getting done at the time and everything is there. So I think giving that extra privilege to someone who needs in that fragile time, I think there is no harm in that. So as I've mentioning to you, like about one of my employees, she was expecting, I mean, she joined the organization. She is really good. And but I mean, she got pregnant and there was some issues. She has to move to India because she wanted all the care and everything from the family and all. They were the couple staying here alone. So I thought like the work which she was doing can be done online as well. She need not to come to the office all the way every day to show her face and to be there in front of me to do everything to achieve the task and all. So we mutually decided that she can work from her home country where she feels comfortable. At the end, work shouldn't be affected. And she actually lived up to her commitment. All the tasks, everything were done at the point. I mean, like nothing was missing from her end, and she delivered, I think, last week itself. And she was so happy with everything. And I was happy because my work didn't get affected and my employee got all the satisfaction, and that she enjoyed that motherhood journey, and she's still enjoying with the parents and the family there. So I think it just the ballpark, the thing is there, at then whatever they are doing, they should live up to their commitment.
Live up to
That's
the
it.
expectations, yeah. So I think the big, if there's one big takeaway from this conversation, it's about offering new parents flexibility. I remember working for a big media network, and the CEO of the company, would have like preferred parking right in front of the building, whereas the pregnant woman had to like park in the what we call kacha parking, like 3 kilometers away, and walk with all of her bags. And I sometimes think if you could just make that little allowance, or create a space where a mom can pump breast milk without having to do it in the toilet. I think it's down to these really tiny practical details, and if we can offer women that, then they'll stick around, and if they stick around, then they'll grow, and then they'll smash the glass ceilings. But if
It's
we
also
force
good
them
for
out.
business. Like, it's not just, we're not doing it as a favor to
Absolutely.
the woman.
Yeah.
It's good for business.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to come back and talk about rejoining the workforce if you've taken a career break and why that's important and what you can learn from this. If you're listening to us on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, but you don't follow us on Instagram yet, then please do. All you've got to do is search for More Bang for Her Buck or Brown on the Outside and hit follow. When I think back to my years in working for someone else and not being employed by myself, I think that one thing that I really lacked was a vocabulary. That I just didn't know how to go into my boss's office and ask for a raise. Like I didn't know what words to say. I didn't know how to negotiate, how to ask. If you had to give someone who's going out there today to have a meeting with their boss, words, phrases, sentences that they can use, tips that they can use, what would it be?
So it depends with whom you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And again, how much you are prepared, your homework, have you done in advance or not?
Yeah.
All the achievements and everything is proper in line or not. Just ask, send an email, ask for the meeting appointment, the schedule, either it's a team call or a face-to-face. That is very important to get that complete attention when you are
Yeah.
going to meet that person.
Yeah.
And I think the best way is to start with the conversation through an email that you really want to meet and you want to start some kind of a conversation like that.
Yeah. Okay. So set the stage before you go in and ask. What would you say, Malak?
Definitely set the stage, but also maybe some research around averages in the market, and really try to understand the value that it's really not just about the tasks, right? So it is about the value that you provide. So understand really the value that you're putting in wherever you're working. Like, how is your job or the things that you're doing contributing to the overall picture of the company, so that you can assign it a monetary value, basically, I mean, if possible. But I definitely think it's more about the value. Once you can prove that, then I think it becomes easier. Also, it helps like not to talk to your manager directly about it if there's an HR
in the room.
I mean, like a head of HR or a department or something, maybe you can talk to them beforehand.
Yeah. Great. So when you're getting back to work after taking a career break, I know, Priyanka, you didn't take one with your kids. Malak, you've taken a few months of a career break, but not years. I think it can be extremely scary and intimidating, right? Because you feel like the industry's moved on, people have moved on. What are some of the actionable steps we can give women who are considering rejoining the workforce? What do you think, Malak? Let's start with you. How to prepare themselves, their CVs, their skills?
I mean, I don't think we should be justifying gaps. And, they could be happening for so many reasons.
Yeah.
One, I'm not happy. I need to understand, what my next step would be. Or, I'm tired. I need a break. Or maybe I have reasons, family members that I need to attend to or whatever. I don't think it's something that we need to justify. So I wouldn't worry much about, giving reasons of why I had to take this break. I can just be honest about it, and then, I hopefully whatever I'm applying to is actually accommodating. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't want to work with them if they think like it's an issue. But I think, going back, I mean, first and foremost, maybe just know that this step is what you really want at this point, because you're starting, you have another chance, right? And again, lead with value. If you've done some work on your skills that would match the new position, or if you're having like a career move or something, then maybe try to also get your credentials in place. But I mean, I can't think of anything else.
Do you see this a lot, Priyanka, of the 100,000 women who you're speaking to? A lot of women who've taken career breaks and come back. And what are the things they're most worried about?
Yes, I see this scenario every day almost. Every day there are females, those who have taken a break
Career
break due to kids, maternity break, I would say, sabbatical or anything like that, maybe because of family issues or any reason. And yes, the lack of confidence is there. And I think this is the biggest roadblock, because what I personally advise to them every time when they reach out to me, that first work on yourself, work on your CV, work on your confidence, study, as she has mentioned, study the market thoroughly. Just jot down a couple of companies where you really think that you want to join those organizations for particular roles. What has changed in that organization? What is changed in the market? How you can add value to that organization? Start building the network, start building the connect. Come out from your comfort zone, start meeting the people more often. And now the LinkedIn and the LinkedIn marketing and the branding is really very important. If you're applying for a role in HR and your page is blank without any job posting or any kind of a career advice or anything related to the human resource or anything, you cannot come and tell an organization
you're
that
an
I am,
expert.
yeah. You have to show your words in your words, because nowadays the things which are more visible, they are more, gives a more recall value.
Yeah,
So
of
you
course.
have to be more visible in that part.
Of course. I want to take it back and end with our case study. So we have a mom turned entrepreneur story. She's an employee. Things were going great at work. She got pregnant, decided to take a career break. She then wanted to re-enter the workforce, but it just felt really, really terrifying because everything was new. Everyone was new. The way everybody was working was new. She's applied to a job. She's got 3 or 4 different rejections that have come her way, and she's now considering starting her own business. Should she still continue to try to work for someone else and keep powering through and applying for jobs, or should she just run her own ship? What would be your advice? Malak.
I mean, I'm in for starting your own business. I mean, I'm all about startups now. So, again, it's about what she wants, right? So if she feels like deeply about starting her own business, then yes, go for it, 100%. If she feels like she wants to have, a few years again working for someone, then do it. It all goes back to what she wants. This is where I think when you're taking a career break, it's not just about time passing by. It's about also kind of getting in touch with what you want and who you are, and really thinking about the next step. And who to work with, right? So that's also an option. Like when you're starting again, you can choose who to work for, right?
Yeah. One of our other guests, Rucha, said this, that I think one of the things that happens when you become a mom is just that so much of your life is about everybody else. It's like your husband, your kids, your in-laws, your own parents, that, to ask a mom who's been raising kids for a couple of years, like, what do you want, is like, I don't even know what I want for breakfast. You're asking me what I want for my career. Do you have a key sort of piece of advice?
I think first of all, she needs to decide what exactly she wants to do. If she's really want to go become an entrepreneur, and she thinks she has a plan, she has a model ready, everything is there, and she will be successful if she'll choose the entrepreneur journey, because that is also not
It's not easy.
It's not
Yeah.
at all easy. So she has to first decide. And if she really thinks that trying 4 or 5 times and is not sufficient, let me try more, let me meet more people, let me just work more on my CV. And because as you have mentioned, she is not even aware about the changes happen and everything. If she really thinks, if I'll upgrade myself, my skills and everything, there are chances to get a job. So I think she should consider that option as well.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having this conversation with me. I do hope that it's been useful. We're going to keep having more conversations about women and money. I think the work that we're doing is really important. These are all the things that I wish I had heard 10 years ago, 20 years ago. If you think that the work we're doing on More Bang for Her Buck is worth sharing, then please like, share, comment, subscribe, send this to a friend, be part of the conversation. And we'd love for the word to spread, right? If you've got any research that you can add to our conversations, if you've got a case study, something that you'd like us to take to the table with our experts, do write into us. This show is produced by Brown on the Outside. This show is produced by Brown on the Outside. A thank you to our production team, The Dark Room, our producer, Sarah Anand, research and intern, Hiral Verma, and on hair and makeup, Neha Shetty.